Hi, I'm Malaysia, and this is my 2-minute pitch. My argument is that social conditions take female-bodied people and produce women for the benefit of men. To realize this requires the demystification that McKinnon and Barkey both talk about. That means not just taking sex and gender as inherent or like God-ordained traits and realizing that they are social constructs. The first part of my argument is the part that's underlined that says that social conditions take female-bodied people and produces women. Whether or not you believe only two sexes exist, it is clear to see that gender is a social construction and therefore something that must be learned. That is why children are often inundated with gender-appropriate clothes, toys, books, and activities from birth. As they get older and begin to develop their own gender schema, they begin to perform gender and thus become their gender. Along these lines, Rubin also uses Marxist theory in her On Psychological Oppression to argue that when torn from social relations, she, meaning women, are no more the helpmate of man than gold in itself is money. This analogy is used to kind of describe, like gold we know is not inherently money, it's just something that we have placed value on. And so women are the same thing. Women are not born women, but rather become women, as Beauvoir says later in our readings. The second part of my argument is that the social identity of woman is beneficial to men. Fry says on page 15 of Oppression that whenever discussing an oppressed group and their experiences, one must look at the barrier or force and answer certain questions about it. Who constructs and maintains it? Whose interests are served by its existence? I felt like the question raised by Marilyn Fry of who constructs and maintains it was really interesting because for many people, especially those who don't recognize women as an oppressed group, there is no constructed barrier. Women simply are weaker, less competent, and inferior, and thus their experiences and opportunities reflect that. But many feminist thinkers, including myself, would argue that men have constructed the concept of women's inferiority and men also maintain it. Unfortunately, women play a role as well because we've internalized our own impressions, so women do maintain it as well, but men have constructed and maintained it, and women's maintaining is secondary. The second part, asking whose interests are served, it's men. Again, women's oppression in general benefits men because passive, submissive, helpful objects can be an aid to them as they pursue their interests and their passions rather than, the woman's. Also more confidence. Beauvoir says on page 94 that the most mediocre of males feels himself a demigod as compared with women. Men also have the privilege of not being psychologically oppressed as men and not being in a double bind as men. They may experience psychological oppression or a double bind as, a gay man or a black man, but not simply just for being men. Finally, they are allowed their subjectivity, which really means they're allowed their agency, which kind of controls the whole rest of the conversation we're probably going to have this semester. So men receive kind of the ultimate privileges, as we can see through this list and throughout our readings, at women's expense.